All right, I've got 102, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to this online information session for the USC College of Nursing. This is going to be an overview of our nursing administration program. Before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping items to help things run a little bit more smoothly. If you are not speaking, it's helpful if you mute your microphone or phone. That helps avoid any background noise or static. Also, it helps if you ask, when you're asking a question, if you give your name. So again, thank you very much for joining us, and let's get started. I'll also say that I'm recording the session today, and I will send everyone a copy of both the slides and the recording by the end of the day. All right, so this is how the meeting is going to work. I've got a PowerPoint presentation that we'll go through. It'll take about 30 minutes to get through. At the conclusion of the presentation, I've got some time set aside for general questions. Having said that, this presentation is very informal, so you're certainly welcome to ask questions at any point throughout the presentation. If you do have a question that's addressed in a few more minutes, I may ask you to put the question on hold briefly until we get to that topic. As mentioned a moment ago, the session is being recorded, and I'll send you both a copy of the slides and the recording later today. All right, hopefully everyone can hear me, and this may sound silly, but if you can't hear me, please either type or post a chat note. And as you can see, you have the option of participating either verbally or through the chat option. Just to make sure everybody can hear me, I'm going to do a real quick roll call. Jerry, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Olivia, can you hear me okay? Olivia, can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me or not, Olivia, but if you're speaking, your microphone is muted. And it may be that she's in a format where she can't respond right now. Okay. Give her another couple seconds here. All right. Olivia, hopefully you can hear me. At the very least, I'll be sending a copy of the recording and slides to you later today. So if you have any problems hearing or anything else, you should get that information. Okay. Here's the agenda for today's session. Some of the information that we're going to cover is true across all nursing programs, and some is specific to the USC College of Nursing. Okay, great. Glad you can hear, Olivia. This session is going to cover the details for our MSN program in nursing administration. You'll see that I have it abbreviated NA several places throughout this presentation, but it just simply means nursing administration. Before we go on, does anybody have any specific questions before we get started? And I'll make sure that I hit that when we get to that particular part of the presentation. Okay, I'll assume that there's no kind of formal questions at this point. Again, let me emphasize this presentation is very informal, and I do encourage you to ask questions at any point throughout the presentation. All right, let's move on. All right, I also wanted to let you know before we got started that earlier this year, we were named the #1 public university for online master's nurses programs by the U.S. News and World Report. It was #1 public and #2 overall in the country. So we're pretty proud of that. This is the 6th consecutive year we've been in the top 10, and I just thought it would be important for you to know what kind of reputation USC has. All right, bear with me 1 minute. We've got 2 additional people. It looks like Olivia joining us again and Vanessa joining us. So welcome, ladies. Vanessa, can you hear me okay? Vanessa, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right.
All right, so I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I wanted to give you a brief overview of the other programs College of Nursing offers. We offer 6 different master's degree programs. The first 3 are clinical in nature: the adult gerontology, acute care, family nurse practitioner, and psych mental health. All those we offer, those again have the clinical focus to become an NP. Nursing informatics is for individuals who want to deal with data management in a healthcare setting. The Master's Entry to Practice is for individuals without a BSN who want to earn a nursing degree. And each of those programs has slightly different focus and requirements. Again, this presentation today is going to focus on the nursing administration program. If you're interested in one of the other programs, let me know and we can kind of talk about that offline. All right, so who should get an MSN in nursing administration? The nursing administration program is good for any bachelor's prepared nurse who wants to advance their career and get into either a leadership or an administrative role. The NA program is not clinical in nature and prepares nurses to manage the delivery of nursing and healthcare services across the spectrum of healthcare organizations in leadership and administrative roles. As you can see, graduates work in a variety of leadership or managerial roles from hospitals and doctor's office to other healthcare organizations. Upon completion of the program, students are eligible to sit for a credentialing exam. There are actually 4 different certification exams appropriate for the nursing administration program. It's a certified nurse manager and leader, certificate in executive nursing practice, certified nurse executive, and certified nurse executive advanced. Which exam you take is kind of based on your own personal interests and goals. All right, so what's included in the nursing administration program? The nursing administration program has a total of 10 classes or 30 credits that students need to complete. During your final semester in the program, you have the option of taking either a research course or completing a thesis. Typically, those folks who do the thesis option are just those who are planning to go on to get into a PhD program. As mentioned earlier, the focus is on leadership, and you take practical coursework such as financing healthcare, family and community health nursing, and facilitative processes of nursing administration. Students may start the nursing administration program either during the fall, spring, or summer semesters, and we're currently taking applications for those students who want to start in the spring. The application deadline is October 31st. So for the nursing administration program, the classes are all didactic or online. The lectures are pre-recorded and you watch them at a time that's convenient for you. You do not need to log in at a particular time, but you should plan on having some sort of assignment due every week. So if you want to watch it at 8 o'clock Monday morning, that's fine. If you want to watch it at 10 o'clock Wednesday night, that's fine. As long as you get your assignments in at the appropriate time, it doesn't matter when you listen to the recordings in New York. The classes are offered in a 7-week format. Students can enroll in multiple classes within a semester. So if you enroll in 2 classes each 7-week period, you can complete the degree within a year. If you take 1 class every 7 weeks, you can complete the program in 2 years. So if you were to start in January, you could actually graduate this coming December. If you take 1 class every 7 weeks, you would actually graduate in December 2022. In addition to the online classes, there are 2 courses that have clinical requirements. Each of these classes requires 224 clinical hours per course. For the NA program, these are indirect clinical hours, which means you won't be working directly with patients. Instead, you'll be working with an administrator. You may start out shadowing someone, but you'll eventually have a project or some other assignment you'll be responsible for. Depending on where you currently work, sometimes you can complete your clinicals in the same facility where you work as long as it's in a different area. For example, if you're in a hospital and you work in the emergency department, you wouldn't be able to complete your clinicals in the emergency department, but you may be able to complete them someplace in the hospital, maybe labor and delivery, human resources department, something like that. We do encourage students to find their own clinical preceptor because you often already have connections within your community. And again, depending on where you work, you may be able to complete it there. If you're having a difficult time finding a preceptor, we have people who can help you do that. But I'll also say it can take 6 to 9 months to find a preceptor and get all the necessary paperwork approved. So you're encouraged to start this process early. I'll also say that the majority of our students do work either part or full time, so that's something you can certainly manage. All right, before we move on, any questions about courses or requirements or things related to the program?
I have a quick question.
Hold on, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So if I opt to do the part-time schedule, would it be possible to pick up an extra class on occasion, or will I need to be just only part-time and doing the one class per semester?
Okay, that's great. And who's speaking right now?
This is Vanessa.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right, thank you, Vanessa. Great question. So there are multiple classes offered every semester. So it is possible to, we'll just say, alternate between 1 and 2 each semester. I will say, depending on the semester and what you've already had and what you need, there may be some semesters that the only other courses offered you've already had or you don't need them. You know, typically it's easier to start with if you start with 2 to continue in 2, but it is possible that if you start with 1, you can go to 2 or maybe flip-flop, alternate between the 2. It just varies from semester to semester in each 7-week term what's being offered.
Okay, great.
Good question. Any other questions about scheduling or courses or anything related to that? Okay, not hearing anything. Let's move on. So what's required for admission? So to be eligible for the nursing administration program, you must have successfully completed a BSN degree from a nationally accredited school. We prefer applicants who have an overall GPA of 3.0 or higher in all their coursework. We will pay special attention to courses required for your BSN degree, specifically your science courses. You must also have a current unencumbered nursing license in the state where the clinical requirements will be satisfied. Do want to note here that some of the state boards of nursing have recently imposed additional restrictions for delivery of online coursework to students in programs outside of their state. So let's just say if you live in North Carolina, the North Carolina Board of Nursing has certain restrictions about enrolling in programs outside of North Carolina. Unfortunately, every state has slightly different requirements, and we're not currently approved to admit students from every state. However, for the nursing administration program, there's currently about 25 states that we can admit from. If you're not certain, there's a listing on our website. Most of the ones in the Southeast are fine. We go as far north as, I believe, Pennsylvania, far west is Texas. There's a few in between, like Louisiana, Tennessee, that we don't do, but most of those we do. If you have any questions about the residency portion, I'd be happy to answer that for you. All right, so what's the application process? Interested applicants need to submit an online application to the graduate school. The application must include a goal statement and a current copy of your CV or resume, as well as a copy of your nursing license. The goal statement will have a prompt, and you should describe the role of the nurse practitioner role for which you're applying and describe how the program fits in with your career goals. We need to receive copies of transcripts from anywhere that you receive college credit, whether it was high school, undergraduate, a summer course during college, whatever. For the nursing administration program, we do need official transcripts before your application can be sent for review. Unfortunately, the nursing administration program is so short, 7-week turnaround every 7 weeks, you're taking a new course. We do need a copy of those official transcripts before we can make an admission decision. You also need to include 3 recommendations from someone who's master's or doctorally prepared in the healthcare field. When you complete the application, you'll list their names and contact information for these individuals. They'll receive a recommendation form electronically, and will be able to complete it online and submit it online. So you don't need to physically collect recommendations from anyone. Again, these people need to be masters or doctorally prepared in the healthcare field. You'll see that we do not require GRE or other standardized test scores. Most of these items can be uploaded with your application, and most of them you actually are required to. For example, the goal statement and resume, that's a requirement before you can even submit your application. Again, we must have all documents, transcripts, recommendations, etc., before your application can be sent to the department for review. After you submit your application, you can always log back in and see what items have arrived and were processed. I do encourage you to submit your application and all required items before the deadline. We'll talk about the deadlines in just a minute. It can take the graduate school up to a week or more to process all items and get them added to your application. Once everything is processed, we'll review your application and let you know if you have any outstanding items. The earlier you submit your application, the more time you have to get everything submitted if you do have any missing items. If you wait till the last day to submit your items, you're only going to have a pretty short turnaround to getting any missing items in. It's not uncommon for either transcripts or recommendations to take a little while longer than everything else to come in. Typically, you will know your admission decision within a week or so of when everything is complete and sent to the department for review. And we will let you know, first, if you're missing any items, and second, when your application is complete and gets sent for review. All right, so let's talk application deadlines. The nursing administration program admits students to start 3 times throughout the year. So anyone wanting to start in the spring should submit all items through October 31st. That's what we're accepting right now as spring applicants. The summer start for spring students would be January 11th. Anybody who wants to start in the summer would need to submit their application by March 13th. Anyone wanting to start in the fall would need to apply by July 1st. Applicants for the nursing administration program are admitted on a rolling basis. So again, typically within a week or so of when you get all your items in, you should know your status. Where do you send everything? Okay, again, most items can be uploaded with your application, and we encourage that as much as possible. Any official items that you're sending, for example, transcripts, they can be sent to the address listed here. If your school sends official transcripts via email, they can be sent to the GradApp email address shown here. After you submit your application, and if there's anything else that you still need to submit, you can either mail it or send it electronically to that email address there. I will say it's quicker to send it to the email address to get processed that way. Again, it can take sometimes up to a week or more to get items processed and added to your application. Just depends on how many other items have come in. That's, again, why we encourage you to get everything in prior to the deadline, because the deadline, a lot of people submit things at the last minute. And again, we'll let you know when your application is complete and been sent for review. All right, I've included a few links here that I thought would be helpful. The first is linked to our nursing administration website. The second is our FAQ page, and that can answer a lot of the kind of general questions you have. And the final link is to the graduate school application. Okay, I know we've covered a lot of information fairly quickly, but now it is time for you guys to ask questions. What questions do you have? All right, this is everyone's chance to ask questions. Don't be shy. I know I haven't answered every question that you have.
This is Vanessa again. I
Yes,
had a
ma'am.
question.
Go ahead.
Can you give us a little bit of an idea of what the goal is in the clinical area for doing the nursing administration, the things that we should be looking at and trying to glean from that experience?
Okay, sure. So you're going to be working with someone in an administrative role. You're going to be, seeing how their role differs from a typical nurse. Part of that will be based on your goals. Are you someone who wants to maybe work more and kind of get a perspective on the finance side? Well, that would be different than if you just want to be in charge of maybe the hiring side or more the administrative support side. So you do have some influence on that, and it's kind of based on individual interests, that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good question though. Thank you, Vanessa. Other questions?
Hi, this is Olivia.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you mind giving us like a little breakdown of tuition and like the cost that we could expect?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you what, let me, before we do that, let me ask everyone what state they're resident of. Olivia, we'll start with you. What state are you?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay, great. Thank you. Jerry, what about you?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Great. And Vanessa?
South Carolina.
Great. Okay. One of the nice things about the nursing administration program is that there is no difference in tuition, whether you're an in-state student or an out-of-state student. So that's one of the nice perks. So currently tuition is $572.25 per credit hour. Okay. So what you do is you just pay tuition for what you're enrolled in that semester. If you're taking one course and it's 3 credits, well, then you just pay for 3 credits. If it's a semester where you can take 2 classes every 7 weeks and it's 12 credits, then you're going to pay for 12 credits. So again, it's $572.25 per credit hour. And you just multiply that times the number of credit hours you're taking that semester. Again, the program is a total of 30 credit hours. Okay. There will be some associated fees, like there's a one-time matriculation fee. I believe it's $80. Every semester you'll have a technology fee that's $17 per credit hour. Most of our students, well, you're required to have insurance if you're a full-time student, and full-time is 3 courses or more, 9 credits. Most people will simply use their outside insurance, and there's an easy process to get that waived. Because you're a nursing administration program, the health center fee is automatically waived. I'm trying to think, there's one other, and there may be 1 or 2 smaller, like a health progression fee, but certainly the biggest chunk is going to be your tuition. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay, great. Other questions?
This is Jerry. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
So would this program be appropriate or fit in for someone who already has a master's in family nurse practitioner? So
Okay.
I already have that master's actually from USC from about 10 years ago, but was just looking to kind of expand on my administration
Okay.
background.
Sure. So yes, you could get a degree in nursing administration. However, what I would recommend for you is what's called our postmaster's certificate in nursing administration. And that would actually be shorter. Let me do this real quick. So for the postmaster certificate, looking at my notes here, I don't have it written down. I believe it's 6 classes as opposed to 10 classes. If you do, 2 classes per 7 weeks terms, you can do it in 2 semesters. A lot of it just depends on what courses you need, when they're offered, when you start the program, that sort of thing. But Jerry, what I'll do is I'll send you specific information about the nursing administration certificate program. Again, that's a little bit shorter. The nice thing about that is, unlike the other programs, the certificate program does admit students to start every semester.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? While you're thinking of your questions, I think most of you already have it, but just in case you don't, here's a copy of my contact information. Certainly feel free to reach out to me at any point if you've got questions. And I'm just going to check to make sure I've got everybody's contact information. Vanessa, for some reason, I don't have you on my list. I did have a miscue with some of my contact information about a week or so ago and lost several people. So if you don't mind individually sending me your email address, I will make sure you get a copy of the slides and the recording from today.
Sure, I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. What other questions? You ladies are taking it easy on me. That's, again, I can't believe I've answered all your questions, and I'm certainly willing to stay on as long as people have questions. If you can't think of any other questions or just want to save your questions for private, that's fine. I'm willing to do that, but want to be respectful of your time. Again, thank you for your participation. Willing to stay as long as people have questions.
I have just one more question. This is
Sure.
Vanessa.
Yeah, go ahead.
How big are your class sizes normally?
That's a great question, and I can't answer that. I will check and I'll find out.
It was just more of a curiosity.
Yeah.
What's do you know the maximum that you admit per semester to the virtual courses?
Sure. So the maximum would be 40 per semester. I will say that we haven't hit 40 in quite a while. We're not going to admit someone if we don't think they will be a good fit, even if we have space. So, we're going to be somewhat, we're not just trying to fill slots. We're trying to find people that we think can be successful. But tell you what, let me see if I can give you right now just a general sense of what we've got. So far for the spring semester, trying to get to my information here, we've got 20 applications for the spring. And how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 have been admitted so far. The others are either still under review or still have some outstanding documents they need to submit.
Okay. And then I had one more question about the letters of recommendation.
Yes.
So I am I'm about 11 and a half years post my bachelor's degree.
Right.
And I don't know that my professors that I had during that time, if they're even still at that school or if they would remember me going through their program. And so I noticed that one of the things said to get a letter of recommendation from the professor where you got your bachelor's degree at. Is that a true requirement, or could I find, I have multiple masters that I currently work with and have worked with in the past. Would it be possible to use them instead?
Yeah, that's fine. That is not a requirement. That's just an encouragement. Sometimes people say, I don't work with that many masters or doctorally prepared people, and if you are having trouble, don't hesitate to reach back out to a faculty member, but there's not a requirement that you have a faculty member.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Olivia. I have another quick question also.
Sure.
So I am just shy of 2 years graduating with my bachelor's. Do you feel like this program is appropriate for someone who may not have 10 years experience? I'm relatively new.
Sure. No, that's
field.
a great question. Actually, I had this conversation with somebody earlier today. If you had no experience, we probably would discourage you from getting the degree. Without knowing a whole lot of detail about what you've done or what your goals are, I would say probably 18 months to 2 years would be the minimum experience that we'd look at, but a lot of it depends on what your experience is. We might look at you and say, you need to get a few more years under your belt, just based on what you've done. Or we might say, you know what, I think you've gotten what you need to kind of progress. So, but a lot of that's based on your drive and what you've done individually. But that's a very good question.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else that anybody wants to ask? Let me remind you that we're taking applications through October 31st for people who want to start in the spring. Starting on November 1st, we'll start taking applications for people who want to start during the summer. Okay. It doesn't sound like there are many more questions, so I think maybe might be a good time to log off. Again, I'm happy to stay as long as people have questions. I will send you a copy of both the slides and the recording later this afternoon. I will say that sometimes it can take a little while for the recording to download. So But by the end of the day, if for some reason you don't get something from me by tomorrow morning, don't hesitate to reach back out and say, hey, I didn't receive the presentation. And Vanessa, please, if you don't mind, if you shoot me a quick email with your contact information so I can make sure you get it.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much for your participation today, ladies. I'll be watching for your applications and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any other questions along the way. All right. Have a good afternoon and I'll look.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.